Hey everybody, it's Bobby back with you on another laptop review, and this is more of a long-term review because I've had this for a number of months, and you know, there were a lot of first-hand impressions and testing and reviews on the MacBook Air, and I thought to myself, you know what, let's wait it out, because sometimes when you use a laptop for a couple of weeks, it's one thing, but when you use it for months, it's another thing. So this is my long-term review of the new MacBook Air. Now I do want to point this out, we're not paid by anybody to do this review. These are our thoughts and our thoughts only. So here we go. Now, first, before we do any laptop review, I always think it's good to sort of tell you the kind of person I am in terms of how I use my laptop so you can gauge if this is the right review for you to watch. Now, I am not a gamer on a laptop, so I'm not going to game on something like this. I am someone that does a lot of graphic editing, so Photoshop, Lightroom. This is kind of like where I like to play with a lot, so I did test that a little bit out on this. I watch, movies, Netflix, browse YouTube videos, documents, all that kind of stuff. So I do the average thing, but I also do some photo editing. And that's pretty much how I use all the laptops that I test here at Tech 360, and that's how I tested this one. But first, let's talk about some of the new things with the MacBook Air that are different from previous versions. Now, I had the original one when it first came out because I loved the design. When Steve Jobs took it out of the manila envelope, that was it for me. I was sold 100%. And I had it for a number of years, actually, till it barely even opened up apps anymore or web pages. It did its job for me. This one is slimmer. It's more refined, it's beautiful, it's got that Retina display, and obviously it's more powerful. Now, on the one I have here, I have the base version. That's the 1.6 dual-core i5 processor. It's the Y processor. It has 8 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of onboard storage with it. Okay, now you can upgrade this to 16 gigabytes of RAM, I think up to 1.5 terabytes of storage. So there's a lot of upgradability you can, but all MacBook Airs will stay within that i5 generation, 8th generation Y processor, okay? So you're going to be stuck with the i5. That's just how it is, because Apple also doesn't want to cannibalize the MacBook Pros, which this could do in some ways if you added the i7 in there. That's another story for another video. Anyway, the big thing you're gonna notice, of course, is the design. Now, it still has that angular design. Let me just show it to you real quick here. It is beautiful, it's slimmer, it's more refined, it's still very lightweight, and it has that Retina display. But before we get to the display, we got to talk about colors. Now, the new color in this is this kind of gold color that Apple has, and it's like a rose gold. And at first I was like, oh, I didn't want this as a review unit. Could you give me the space gray or the silver or something like that? Because I really just don't like the gold. I felt it was a little bit feminine. But, and this is coming from someone who's using the gold iPhone XS Max and the gold Apple Watch, which I believe, still to this day, I think this is one of the best gold colors I've seen on any smartphone or any device, any technological device out there. Technological device, that sounds like it's Terminator. But I have to say, the gold that's on the iPhone XS Max and the watch is some of the best looking gold I've seen on any device thus far. This one, it grew on me. It did. Honestly, I was like, oh man, this is gonna be so feminine. What am I gonna do with this? Then I decided, hey Bobby, give it a chance, okay? And sure enough, it does. And actually, in different light, this gold will change color. Sometimes it'll look a little bit more yellowish, sometimes a bit more pinkish. In this kind of light right now, we've got this kind of reddish bronze look to it. So it varies. And actually, it's refreshing after a while. So if you're worried about the gold, don't. It does grow on you. Okay, let's talk about the display for a moment. Now, the display, the big thing on the MacBook Air, which everybody's been wanting for years, is the Retina display. They're like, come on, Apple, when is this ever coming out? This is a 2560 by 1600 Retina display. It is beautiful, colors are great, 4K content works well, but there is a but on the 4K content. Safari won't pull it out of YouTube. You gotta use Chrome if you want 4K content on YouTube, okay? That's a little tip for you if you're wondering, how come I'm not able to watch 4K on Safari? It won't work that way. At least out of how I was using it, it wasn't working. Now, if you know a hack or know a trick, you can let me know in the comment section below. Also, I mean, that's kind of the big thing. Now, the speakers are on the side of this. They're loud, they're vibrant, great clarity, okay? Trackpad is big, it's responsive. Now, in terms of the keyboard, I actually like it. It's much more flush inside, and it did take a while to get used to the travel of the keys, but it was no problem at all. And I had no problem with any kind of sticking keys whatsoever. Some people have had problems with it, I have not. So that's just my experience. The backlighting is great on it. Very ergonomic, very comfortable to type for long periods of time, no problem at all. So yeah, and it's got Touch ID on there, so good for security. However, if you don't use your laptop for a couple days, you still got to put in the password, so it is what it is. But I love the trackpad, and I can tell you after using a number of different laptops from different companies out there, Apple makes, arguably the best trackpad in the business. They really, really do. It's precise, it's big, it's responsive, it's got the Force Touch to it. It works really, really well, and it's been a joy to use. But yeah, obviously the star of the show is going to be the display, and that is the thing that grabs to you. Now, there have been some comments that the display is not really that bright, and people complain, well, I want a brighter display. I'll tell you what, day-to-day usage, if you do not have it next to another laptop or anything that's much brighter, you're not gonna know. You're really not gonna know. It's fine. I still can watch content beautifully at night, in the daytime. I can still edit photos fine. There's no issues with that at all, nothing. So for those who do have an issue with it, okay, maybe you're using it for a specific reason. Day-to-day usage, no problems at all for me. Ports-wise, this is not the greatest for ports. It just isn't. Apple's been a little bit weird with ports. I know they're getting into the whole USB-C, Thunderbolt 3, and I get it. There's only 2 ports on this. That is it. Again, they're trying to keep this an ultra laptop. And I also, at the same time, this is on the edge, if you really spec it out, to really compete with a MacBook Pro at 13 inches. So I can understand why Apple wants to be a little bit more conservative on the ports here. Having said that, there are dongles you can get to give you more options. I was looking, I haven't found yet the ability to one of those side docking ports where they have for the MacBook Pros where you get your HDMI, your USB, USB-C, all that kind of stuff, but it's an attachment that comes on the side. I haven't found that yet. If you do know a place where I can get it, let me know, hit me in the comment section below because I would love to get something for this. I hate dongles and I hate all that stuff. But it is what it is when you have 2 USB-C ports and that's it. Charging wise, charge is pretty quick. USB-C, so that's great. Also, that same charger can work with the iPad Pro, so everything is USB-C in the Apple lineup, except this. Hopefully that changes in 2019. But we can talk about that later on. Okay, editing photos, I would say it will do basic photo editing. Now, if you want to get into multiple layers on Photoshop, I've got 8 gigabytes of RAM, so I'm really stretching things thin. Once you get into multiple layers, you will find that it's going to slow down a bit. In Lightroom, of course, Lightroom Classic is not going to be the fastest thing on the market. It just isn't. The iPad Pro will beat this in photo editing. I'm just going to put it out there. This is more of a day-to-day laptop where you're using for Word documents, watching movies, videos. You could do light editing, I guess, and pages and Keynote, that kind of stuff. It works fine for that. It's great for that. But anything more on the professional aspect of it, you're going to need some help. However, having said that, you can hook up an external GPU to this through the Thunderbolt 3 ports, the 2 USB-C ports on the side. So that can give you a little bit more of a boost. But then you got to buy an external GPU, blah, blah, blah. It's more money. Go for the Pro. Battery life is great. I'm getting about 8 to 9 hours of usage for me. Even the power saving functionality on this is great. I can close this thing off, leave it for a number of days, come back on, and I'm good to go. It really just sips juice when it's closed off. So it lasts a long time. It's a good device for that in that regard. Do I wish there were more ports on this? Yeah, I do. I do wish there were something more. 2 USB-C ports. Come on, Apple, So to round things out a bit, yeah, would I recommend it? Yes, I would. But if you want to spec this out at a higher level, then I would definitely consider the MacBook Pro 13-inch or maybe 15-inch because once you start speccing things up on Apple, that price jumps up quite a bit. Here in Singapore, this laptop is around $1,789. You can easily get this up to $2,500 and no problems at all. You're at a Pro level, and at that point, you'll get a faster processor and all those other things, so I would go that route. Anyway, my final thoughts on the MacBook Air. It's definitely worth the buy if you're looking for a very slim laptop. You want macOS, you want the beautiful design that Apple has, because they're still the leaders really when it comes to design. Oh, you know what I forgot to tell you? It's actually made out of 100% recyclable aluminum, which is really cool. You gotta give it. Apple's gone really green with these things and it's cool with that. It's something you don't really think about, and it's not like, well, what's the difference between normal aluminum and recyclable aluminum? You're not gonna know there's a difference, but you're saving the environment. So if that is important to you, which it should be, the MacBook Air is another reason to get it. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the MacBook Air. Any comments you have for me, leave them in the comment section below. Subscribe to us on YouTube. We love subscribers. Follow us on Facebook. Until the next one, take care.